The National Association of University Students has criticized the recent JAMB UTME examination, which stranded over 300,000 candidates, calling it a clear indication of the ongoing collapse of Nigeria's education sector. The group expressed outrage over the technical failures and poor administration, linking it to the broader decay within the system. And the U.S. also noted the inadequate funding for education, citing the 8.8% allocation in the 2023 budget as insufficient. Despite the high cost of tuition fees, the sector remains largely inaccessible due to overcrowded facilities and unpaid staff. NELS urged the federal government and lawmakers to urgently address the issue, demanding accountability for the officials responsible for the UTME debacle. The university students also called for a national memorial to honor victims of the scandal.
As registrar of JAMB, I hold myself personally responsible including for the negligence of the service provider and I unreservedly apologize for it.
And for an analysis of the developments surrounding the glitches experienced in the 2025 Nigeria's Higher Institution Admission Examination, JAMB, and particularly the systemic failure of the nation's education sector, former Professor of Veterinary Medicine, University of Ibadan, Professor Victor Anosa, now joins us on Newsday. It's good to have you with us, Professor.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've seen the apology tendered by the head of JAMB there. And of course, we're seeing a broader infusion of technology recently when it comes to JAMB processing, as it were. So to a large extent, do you think this could have been avoided? Because yes, you could have glitches every now and then, but you should also have a backup system to be able to overcome all of this. So I'd like your thoughts on this, sir.
Well, the problem with Nigeria, I think, there are many problems. One of the problems with Nigeria is that we don't lack the capacity to manage big structures. Once anything gets big, Nigerians don't take the troubles. They don't take they don't attempt to rise up to the occasion. It's in all our country's life. I've been in university system. I was in the university system for 51 years, from the time I became a lecturer, not as a student, a lecturer, to the time I retired. And I've seen the thing really decay, mainly because we are not interested in our country making progress. In fact, I was just writing a speech. I will read it on my launching of my book. I said this country celebrates mediocrity and then discards our geniuses. There are many problems. I've written articles on this subject, also in my book, What Has Happened in Universities. At the 1966, a professor of chemistry came to Ibadan to examine a student, a PhD student, and Professor Ingold. And after examining the student, he wrote in the visitor's book of the department. He said, "This is preeminent in Africa." That's Ibadan, at par with the West. 1996, and I went to university. 1966, I went to university of Ibadan 64, and I couldn't. After spending 2 weeks, I was invited to go to Germany to study biochemistry of medicine, and after looking at the environment, I said, I'm not going anywhere. I stayed back. It was beautiful. So we lack this capacity to take the extra trouble to get things done. And I think it's because I think we have education, but we don't have dedication. I went to secondary school. The principal was white, Englishman from England. and the school was his life. He didn't have a wife. He didn't buy a car. He made Oxone. See, and I don't think he made money for himself. But once you put Africans there, Nigerians there, the primary objective is for them to make money.
All right, Professor,
yes,
sorry to butt in, but I know that in your book, Destined for the Ivory Tower, you reflected deeply on the challenges of Nigeria's education sector.
Sure, I did.
As someone who has been around for a long time, did you expect the deterioration to get to this point, especially seeing the fact that a student's life was lost in the course of this, JAMB saga? A 19-year-old girl passed away. She committed suicide. Did you expect it to get to this point where, students, mass failure? JAMB said over 300,000 students would rewrite the examination. Did you expect to see it this way?
I didn't expect. In fact, there was so much hope in this country because I saw the rise of Nigeria up to independence. I was in secondary class 4, and then thereafter, after independence, we came here to Ibadan, and I saw beauty. I didn't even 74, I refused to go to Canada. I said I must go back to Ibadan because he gave me all I thought I should have. So I didn't expect that things are going to deteriorate to this point. And I blame it on, it's all in my book, I blame it on government, people in government. I don't want to name names, but we know who has been in government. There is some disdain for intellectuals. And in that disdain, they extended to making sure that the education system was not funded. Okay? If I tell you, I called somebody yesterday. A professor gets 560,000 naira a month today. Professor at the bar. As you people say in Yoruba land. After you added everything, housing allowance, transport allowance, professor gets 560,000 naira. You see? And I've said in one article I wrote that amount is probably equal to what they pay legislators as a road allowance. But we were close to classes also. And everything we have is 560,000 naira. Professor at the bar. So I didn't expect it to reach this point. And as I said, I was there for 51 years in the university system as a teacher. So I have understanding, but I'm well disappointed. Very disappointed.
If I may comment in, so who holds who accountable for this decay in the educational sector?
I say the government. Why do I say the government? There are internal problems in universities, but it's the government who is funding the universities. I did an article, I addressed the Rotary Club of Mushi, 1996. And somebody asked me to discuss the issue in the university, and I came from Ibadan. And one of the things I mentioned, I quoted in this part of this book, that I went to Glasgow University for my master's, and Ibadan was my base. Then I was comparing the allocation per student, checking the total budget of the universities. What they had in Glasgow was 37 times per student, 1996, compared to Ibadan, which is our great university. Okay, so and it's very obviously worse now. So I'm saying that the major problem is with the government, from various both politicians
and if I may also add, Professor, that the academic community every now and then, through strikes, they've tried to bring out these shortcomings in this regard, but it hasn't actually moved.
Because the people that have the power do not see it this problem as a problem. Initially, it was with the generals. They just detested university people, okay? And then, surprisingly, the politicians joined them. And then, as I told you, how do you pay a professor 560,000 naira a month? at the bar. He has children. Huh? And then talk of pensions, for instance. How much do we get? 300, 200 to 200, 300,000 a month. That will fill your tank for 5 times. So it's the people that are controlling the pulse of the country that are creating this problem for us. And unfortunately, it's gone on from about 1980 to now. And I doubt if it's still redeemable. I mean, the problems are very complex. If I tell you that one of the things, because they don't pay university staff well, there's brain drain. A lot of our people leave. They left before the 80s and 90s, and they're still living. I made a call yesterday to one of the universities, first universities, and they were telling me that one said he's a dean of his faculty, and somebody wrote an application. Signed an application for somebody to go to Fernando Po, that's in Equatorial Guinea. They are paying professors $3,000 a month. The senior ones are earning $5,000. Fernando Po over there. And how much does a professor in Nigeria get? Is it $300? You get the point I'm making. So, and it's not just the salary. The money they provide for services. Because our labs are not labs anymore. Our labs are not labs anymore.
As I was even going to talk about research grants as well. How much is that? Because university should be, one of the major panaceas towards development, infrastructure.
I wrote in my book that I became a research fellow in 1972. I wrote in my book that in the years I was in UI, my research was funded by bodies outside Nigeria. Rockefeller Foundation, World Health Organization. Then there's a research institute in Kenya called ERORAD, letter ERORI. They funded my 90% of my research. I only got one research grant from the University of Ibadan. Only one.
Well, Prof, we've apportioned enough blames to the government, which of course is expected.
There are internal problems.
Yes.
Management.
But should we also look at the students? What has changed, especially seeing today it's a digital age. Everyone is on social media. Do you think that perhaps attention has shifted from, picking up the books to read and, turning to social media, TikTok, Instagram, and then they're getting distracted? Is that also responsible for the mass failure we're witnessing? And also, I'd also like to ask, looking at what the professor said, the JAMB registrar, Isha Koloyede, he talked about the fact that some officials were responsible for some technical glitches that was experienced during the examination. Yes. Do you think that heads should roll? Those people who were responsible for that?
Obviously, he has accepted the blame for the failure, which is right. And I'm not asking for his head rolling because there are people that are assigned to that.
Yes, I'm talking about those responsible for the glitches.
Should be fired. That's why I say this. It might be intentional, even if it's not intentional. These are people's lives. You have to be very careful. So the students have a problem. But if we leave this, because it's a multifaceted, the problem is in university. One of them is the quality of the students. When I went to university, I had to have 3 A-level papers. University of London or University of Cambridge high school certificates to study medicine, veterinary medicine, engineering. Other courses, 2 A-level papers. I now see where I was working after retirement, that they're admitting people with 150, 160. When I now tell them that these people cannot cope, the fact that I had to have 3 A-level papers, near perfect, to enter veterinary medicine, which is my course, means that it's not a course for everybody. But the people, you are talking to them and you're talking to yourself. So the quality of students has dropped, in part because our system, the lower levels have collapsed, have depreciated. The primary schools, the secondary schools have depreciated. So it's a problem. The students you are taking are not properly qualified. When I was a student, when I got to Ibadan, I was assigned a room with somebody, a room. They're dressed, furnished. So I just, every Monday, you bring out 10 clothes for washing. You know, we had 3 meals once you pay your fees. Now they stay sometimes 8 or whatever in a room. You know, so the environment is complicated. But if we had the desire to make this country a great nation, we have enough money to provide for the students, you know, at least reasonably, so that they'll eat well, and they'll eat well, and general provisions are right, even in laboratories. But like I said, the failure came from the top. But we academics sometimes also make our own mistakes because we are Nigerians. But I think that most of us at Ibadan, for instance, we can talk about Ibadan, and I've been to Maiduguri, I've been to ABU, I've been to Nsukka, you know, to teach and to do all things. Most of us who went to that job went there with very good intentions. But when, like I said, people are now places neglected, you know, then it becomes a problem. In fact, the other issue is this expansion of universities. There are very many universities. The ones you have, like I told you, the man that came to Ibadan, Professor Christopher Ingold is the man I'm talking about. Sir, he was knighted by the Queen. He said Ibadan is preeminent in Africa, at par with the West. You can't say that today.
But the National Assembly is even talking about creating more universities.
No, they can go ahead. They can go ahead. They are earning big money. As I told you, my pension is 300,000, and I'm even lucky that I put my money in IBTC. I'm not advertising for them. My friend, my colleague in ABU, told me he was getting 197,000. Professor, same age and the same listen. So I said, okay, we'll talk. I sent him my monthly listing. He talked to his agent, and the man talked to me, and nothing came out of it. Shortly after I called him, they said, Prof is dead. Prof is dead. You know, because it's not a good story. And I don't know how we're going to rescue education, because we've destroyed. In fact, the other issue I want to talk about is brain drain. As I've talked about the people leaving Nigeria and going elsewhere. Now that goes to Fernanda Po, that is Equatorial Guinea to work. Talk about, there's also internal brain drain. That when people graduate with first class in those days, you have only one destination. You go back to the classroom, you go back to do research. Not because of the money, but because that place was respected. But the money they paid was enough to live your life. Yeah. But now when you get a first class honors, it dates back to even in the 90s. You go to the banks. I have a friend who was in economics. He told me that in 1 year, 6 people made first class honors in economics in Ibadan. And I advised them, don't come here, go to Lagos, go and find a job. Because we were getting that time, we were earning about 6,000 naira. And they were getting 40,000 naira job, 30,000 naira job. First salary, you're talking about Professor Alba. He's been there all the time. And we've been talking. I wrote an article in 1996, which I called Poor Professor. It's published in Guardian about this matter. Because at that time I was earning 6,000 something. And a friend of mine saw me and called my name is Victor. I answered, I said, Poor Professor, in my hometown, in my village.
All right, Professor, it's a multifaceted issue. A
multifaceted, yes.
So how do we turn around the fortunes of the educational, and do you have confidence in current educational reforms, you think?
I've left the universities. I don't know about the reforms. I hear they want to pay professors their salaries. I saw they sent something like that out. Let them start doing it. Let them start doing it. If we can turn it around, is the persons who are in charge, when they realize that the only way Japan, the only way Singapore, the only way China are ruling the world is not by what they pay legislators, but how they develop the educational system.
So it's an intentional...
It's not intentional. I don't know whether it's intentional.
No, from the Japanese or the Chinese perspective.
Yeah, it's an
intentional venture.
I even hear that in China, for you to belong to the Communist Party, you must be very sharp.
technically inclined and every other.
And I was told I read the other day, not that I was told, that for the Singapore selecting a leader, they did an interview and they gave it to the brightest person. Because it's only a bright person that one will not be afraid of having other bright people around them. It's only the bright person that have visions that are not selfish. Okay? But when you have a mediocre, I won't mention many examples. Mediocre leaders do not want anybody that is bright.
Well, Prof, we could go on and
I
on,
can go on and on.
especially looking at the fact that you have been around and you can take us
51 years.
through different eras of the education system in
yes,
Nigeria. But it's been a very enlightening session with
Thank you.
Former Professor of Veterinary Medicine, University of Ibadan, Professor Victor Anosa.
Anosa.
Thank you so much for your time on the show.
Thank you for having me.